Another week in MMA and another huge announcement. Well, I think we all kind of saw this coming in recent weeks, so maybe not that huge, but the PFL have scrapped the season. We're now getting a straight shootout, single elimination tournament to crown their global champions. A bit of a restructure here. So let me explain how PFL has traditionally worked. They would have an annual season with a regular season, which included two fights, playoffs, and then a championship. In the regular season, you would accrue points for how you won. So if you won the bout in decision, you get 3 points. But then if you won in the first round, you would get an additional 3 points. 2 points in the second round, 1 point if you finished in the third round. So you get up to 6 points. And you would accrue points through those two first fights. From each division, the competitors with the most points would then progress to the playoffs, winners, championship. Championship winners get the big shiny belt and $1 million. $1 million, which for fighters who are competing in these tournaments are huge paydays. I mean, look, it's $1 million. It's huge, whoever you are. But these fighters were not $1 million fighters. So that's life changing. The tournament has, this season, we've always slipped up because it's always felt like a tournament. But now it's officially a tournament. So the season is gone. There's no more playoffs. There's no more regular season. There's no more points. It's just win in advance. And it's much more compressed. So traditionally, the season will start in April and conclude around about Thanksgiving. Now it's happening between April and August. So 3 fights across the span, basically, of the summer. So much more compact. I think it's going to be a lot easier for the masses to digest. MMA fans never really understood the regular season thing. I'll be honest with you, I've worked in mixed martial arts for over a decade, and when I first started working with the PFL 2.5 years ago, I didn't get it either. We used to watching fights. We used to sing who wins a fight, and with the win comes the rewards. PFL was a bit different. You were looking at maths, weren't you? Now it's a straight shoot, which is wonderful. One thing I am going to miss is the second fight of the regular season. For me, that was always fun. It was something it was an experience you wouldn't get anywhere else in mixed martial arts because it wasn't just about winning; it was about how you won and how quickly you won. For example, someone could need 6 points to advance. Winning wasn't good enough. Getting 3 points for a decision win wasn't going to be enough. So they were going all guns blazing in the first round to try and get those 6 points. And the different permutations you got with that, I enjoyed. I'll be honest with you. I liked that second round of the regular season because it was different and it really made fighters have to go out there and work. And it wasn't about winning. It was about getting the job done and earning the points in the time and the round you needed. I always said that the PFL season was a body of work. Um, it was tough. It's the toughest test in combat sports. You got to do 4 fights across a relatively short period, and you got to perform. Again, it's not just wins. You kind of got to mass those points in the first 2 fights to have a chance to get through there. So, the more I worked with the company, the more I saw the season unfold. I did enjoy it, particularly the first 2 fights. But I understand why they've done this. I understand that I think to the MMA audience, it was confusing. People like Ariel Hawani have been very open that they don't think that the season format works. And although I think it was intriguing, I do agree that it makes things easier for the company moving forward to not be shackled by this tournament thing. It's probably going to be an easier sell to audiences and platforms who want to maybe take the content to understand what it is. This is just a tournament. In, win, advance. You have made some changes. It's no longer $1 million to win. It's now 500 grand. There's been a lot written about how the contracts were structured in the past. Some people were saying that the $1 million you won for your initial season was actually for the last two fights. Some people were saying that, let's say your fight fee was 50 show, 50 wins, or 100 grand to win, it would be a bonus of 900 grand to get you up to that million. I don't know. I've never seen the contracts. I've just seen what everyone else has seen online. So it was, you would get ultimately $1 million for winning that tournament. This time it's, let's say, on 50 and 50. You win the tournament and you get a 500 grand bonus. Plus then your 50 show, your 50 win, so you get 600 grand. That's how it's being put out there, which is wonderful. Also, let me just put the press release down here. Also, they're saying that the PFL World Tournament will pay out over 20 million in prize money. That's a lot. So there's 8 weight divisions now. So we're maxing out the weight division. So there's 8 weight divisions. So that's 4 million in prize money there. So there's another 16 million in that tournament. I haven't got any inside track on this, so I'm just spitballing this. Is that going to be 16 million in terms of fighter fees who are in the tournament? There's 64 fighters in there. So is that split amongst them? Is that for everyone who appears on those tournament cards? Because obviously as we move forward, there'll be less and less fights per weight category, so there'll be showcase fights, etc. So it'd be interesting to know. But either way, there's 10 events and there's 20 million bucks there across those events. So some healthy money there. Be intrigued to see how that all actually plays out. I'm sure we'll learn more. The brackets and the matchups going to be released in February about how it works. But what we do know, we got dates. So it begins April 3rd, then April 11th, April 18th. They put on the press release here TBD for the first round event. I did see somewhere they put out a graphic yesterday, and they seem to change it later on. I think it was early May the 1st. Let's check my calendar. I think they were talking about probably something like May 2nd, but that is a TBC. But I did see that on a graphic out there. Then we go semi-finals, June 12th, June 20th, June 27th, and then the championships, August 1st, 15th, and 21st. So that's a quick turnaround, isn't it? So April, May, June. So let's just say you fight April 3rd. I assume then you'll probably go on to the June 12th card. So if you fight April 18th, that's not even less, isn't it? So, I mean, we're looking at less than 2 months between those fights, which is tough, which is really tough. So, as with the PFL season original, there's going to be the challenges in that you got to stay healthy. You gotta win. But also, you got to be ready to go in. It could be 8 weeks' time. And a difference this year: elbows are allowed. I think this is an indication that PFL are definitely listening to the fans and the MMA audience, because one criticism has been you can't use elbows, which not only makes it confusing for the fans, but also the fighters. These fighters, particularly the ones coming into PFL for the first time, you could be a 10-fight vet. You'd be able to use elbows your entire career. There's probably a certain reflex that comes with being in a position and what the throwing elbow. It's got to be restrictive mentally and physically to not be able to maximize a position like that. Now we're all clear. The reason for the lack of elbows was that when PFL first started, there was 2 fights in one night. You used to have to fight 5 times to become the champion. Sean O'Connell will happily tell you about that, the inaugural PFL light heavyweight champion. But now I think they've recognized that people are getting hurt in multiple ways. You see, as the seasons had progressed, there were multiple dropouts as the seasons went on from injuries in other ways, either incurred during the previous fight or in training camp. Getting sliced by an elbow, I think it's what the fans want to see. I think it's what the fighters want. I think it's what the whole community wants, to be able to have the full scope of mixed martial arts rules employed. And again, you're going to tune in and you're not going to be asking why they're not throwing this, why they're not doing that. For the fans, for the casual fans particularly, much simpler. So I think this is definitely a step forward with PFL. There's been some speculation that this is because of the smaller prize pool, that this is going to be for more developing fighters. I think the pipeline in is going to be much more what we thought about the PFL Global Series and the regional brands doing. So you get the feeling, and this is not confirmed by any means, but if you win a PFL Europe or MENA championship, that you get the spot in the global season. Dakota Ditcheva did it last year, 2023, from PFL Europe into 2024 in the global season, and she won. Fantastic. But people like Jakub Kosuba, who won the PFL Europe Lightweight Championship in 2023, went back into Europe the following year. I wonder if that's going to continue, or if the way that PFL are restructuring now allows those fighters, hey, you won the regional, you're into the global. And I think that's good. I think it gives real purpose to these regional brands. There's a reward there along with the title, along with the status, along with the 100-grand paycheck you get from a PFL MENA, PFL regional championship. You get the big ticket to the global. PFL are having these champion series events throughout this year. There's one coming up in Dubai next week, and it really feels like PFL gets rolling from April moving forward. And I wonder how those Bellator championships, because Bellator's dead. We all know that, don't we? Bellator's gone. The brand is gone. The athletes are still with PFL. They're all now part of the PFL roster, and it's a PFL brand. I don't know what's going to happen with those Bellator belts. There's a lot of legacy in those belts. A lot of legacy in terms of the fighters who's won them and their history. It'd be interesting to see how they are dealt with going forward. Will those champions defend them? And one of those fights, that title is then transitioned to a PFL heavyweight champion. So the global tournament winners, again, points that are unclear. If they win the global tournament, they get the 500 grand. They become a number one contender for whatever ultimate PFL title there is. A lot of questions, but it seems like the PFL brass are going to unveil more and more details as we go through the coming weeks. But what we do know is tournaments here. Bit of a reshake. Another thing is the brackets. The weight classes. They've announced more weight classes than we normally have. So there's 8. Let's run through these. So we got. Let's pull this graphic up. Where's the graphic? Here we go. We've got the women's flyweights, 125. We've got the bantamweights, the featherweights, the lightweights, the welterweights, the middleweights. The middleweights are there. Light heavyweights, and the big boys, they're heavyweights. That middleweight one jumps out at me. So many more possibilities. They've only announced a couple of people who are actually in the tournament. They're creeping out across their social media in the last day or so. So Mark Diakese, British UFC vet. He is jumping into the tournament. He's going to be in the lightweight bracket. Excited to see Mark in the PFL. I know he's been keen for a change-up. And I think going through this tournament format will be exciting for him. Exciting for us as fans to see him. Tyler Santos, this past season's finalist against Dakota Ditcheva. She got to the championship this time. I'd be interested to see who she is against in the tournament this year. And then Impa Kasanganay, the 2023 PFL light heavyweight champion, is fighting at middleweight, which is fantastic in my mind. He is very undersized for a light heavyweight. I mean, the guy's jacked. The guy's stacked. But light heavyweight is such a big division. Impa, from a recollection, normally weighs in about 203. He weighs in under the limit, well under that limit. He fought at 85 on the Champs versus Champs card against Johnny Eblin in February last year. He's fought a middleweight traditionally throughout his career until he came to the PFL season. So I think dropping down to middleweight for him is fantastic. If he's able to win the championship at light heavyweight, and he got to the championship again this past year, a dominant force at light heavyweight. Man, putting him back in his home of middleweight, I think is a big, big move. That's wonderful to see. Excited for what Impa can do. Just looking at the content that PFL have put out, sort of promo videos and stuff, some of the faces in there, we've seen Clay Collard. Always exciting, always wonderful to see. Assuming he's going to be at lightweight. Josh Silveira, a counterpart of Impa Kasanganaya to Impa beat in 2023 for the championship. Where will he land? I would assume he may be a counterpart of Impa down at middleweight. He is a bit undersized again for that light heavyweight spot. We'll see. We've got Diakazi, Gabriel Braga, featherweight fighter. He was in the promo. Liz Carmouche showed her face. Brett Primus. I think Carl Moore's come out on social media and said he's in there. Nathan Kelly, featherweight fighter. And an interesting one. There's only a little snippet. There's only a little snippet of this man in the promo. But the two-time PFL Europe lightweight champion, Jakub Kasuba, was featured. And I think after winning the 2 PFL Europe titles back-to-back, it's time for him to step in. Particularly with this shake-up of the format. Put Jakub in the global tournament. I want to see what that man can do. He showed some real resilience when he won the European title again in December. Came back from some adversity early in that fight. I think it's time for a step up to show what he can do on that global scene. So excited if that is the case. Someone who wasn't featured, Dakota Ditcheva. As I mentioned earlier, 2023 won the PFL Europe Championship, went on and won the global season last year. Really is a flag bearer and a superstar within the PFL brand right now. After a season win, I'm getting confused between season and tournament now. After a season win a few months ago, I think the whole MMA world really saw just how good she is, and she's so young, so early in her career still. There's a long way to go for her. So PFL, I think, are going to push hard on her this year to become a big, big star. I don't think we're going to see her in the tournament. I think PFL have bigger plans for her. I think that these Champion Series events, they're going to be the events you can curate much more, aren't they? One problem PFL has had is being hamstrung to these seasons, tournaments, however you want to put it, in years gone by. It's hard to make the fights you want. Sure, we can have these showcase bouts and etc. And last year we saw more of that. Like throughout these the seasons, would have some key fights at the top, which were match made, and they weren't predicated by wins and losses and part of the season. MMA fans want to see the best fights. They want to see stars developed. That's tricky sometimes in tournaments and seasons because the meritocracy. You win, you advance. It's hard to build a fight. Someone could lose, have a bad night, and they're going to face whoever they're going to face. You can't build the fight you want. These Champion Series are going to be much more what us as MMA fans are used to. We're going to make matches. We're going to make matchups. As I mentioned earlier, will the winner of the tournament get a fight against whoever the champion is, however that's decided? I hope so. But I think there's a real possibility for these Champion Series to be the events that push PFL to that next level, where the fans get to see the fights they want. Narratives are built, big events are built. I'm excited for what's to come. I think it's intriguing as well about how the tournament is structured. It ends by the end of August. So then we've got, August, September, October, November, January, February, March, April. 7 months till the tournament, I assume, would start again the next year. So, say they're all fit and healthy, the champions can then fight towards the back end of this year. Whoever wins the tournament can get back in there in a Champion Series event towards the back end of the year. So there's a nice story to tell throughout the year. I think Dakota Ditcheva is going to be pushed hard as hell. As hard as Francis Ngannou, to my mind. We got Ngannou there. We don't know what Ngannou is doing next. Still waiting to see. I think he's waiting to see how the boxing landscape falls out. What AJ does next, if Tyson Fury's really retired. Because there's definitely some big, big, big paydays for Francis in the boxing world. If there's nothing right for him there, does he jump back into a PFL cage? Who's he fight, though? Who does he fight? Does he once again hold out and see who wins the heavyweight tournament this year and fight in PFL towards the end of the year? TBC. But I do think Dakota Ditcheva is someone you can build several fight cards around throughout this year. You just got to find her the right opponents. I'm sure PFL Brass are looking for that right now. So in short, I think it's a step in the right direction for PFL. It's less complicated, more accessible to the masses. If you're tuning into one of these tournament broadcasts, you haven't got to try and do the maths or try and understand the regular season, the playoffs, the championship. Whoever wins moves on. Nice, simple, compact. Opens up a lot more possibilities to my mind for the PFL moving forward. I hope that the regional brands we've got, like PFL Europe, PFL MENA, PFL Africa, is incoming this year. PFL Australia is in the works. All these regional champions, I hope, along with the money, along with the championship, earn the right to go in the global season. I think that really verifies what these regional setups are doing. So I think this restructure is a good thing. Definitely a good thing. What do you think? Let me know.